and welcome to the Explorers Wild About Wildlife on the Seashore. Today we're going to be talking about crustaceans.
The crustacean family get a really bad rep because they go around eating all the dead stuff on the beach. This is why we call them scavengers.
And they're also known as predators. They eat small animals. They're armor plated with claws that can kill.
Gosh, they sound a bit like a nasty bunch. But did you know crustaceans like crabs and sandhoppers are really important on our seashore? The role they play, as well as being predators, are decomposers. What that means is they eat all the dead material, or lots of the dead material on the shore, such as dead plant and animal material. Another really important role that they play, they're food for other animals. So animals like bigger fish like blennies, seabirds like seagulls, and even animals like otters and seals will like to eat some crabs. Did you know that crustaceans can be found on all parts of the seashore? They come in all shapes and sizes and belong to different groups, such as decapods, amphipods and isopods, to name a few. One of the most fascinating isopods on the seashore is the pill bug, or mealcrean in Irish. It can be found under rocks around the middle shore. The pill bug isopod lies flat attached to the rock, and when they're disturbed, they roll up into tiny little balls, like a little pill shape. Sometimes they are also called roly-polies. They grow to about 1 centimetre, about the size of your fingernail. What I love about the pill bug isopod is that they have giant relatives that live in the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. The giant isopod can grow to just over 40 centimetres, the same size as a puppy. However, they are lots scarier and look like aliens. A lot of the isopods and the amphipods are related to woodlouse, like the ones you'd find in your garden. One of these is called the common sea slater, or clórsach craw in Irish. It lives in the upper shore and splash zone. The sea slater is an omnivore, which means it eats plant and animal material. It comes out at night and feeds on decaying matter like dead seaweed and animals such as seashells along the upper shore. It then hides in dark places during the day. That nearly 2,000 species of crustacean have been recorded in Ireland. Even before we head down to the middle and lower parts of the shore, a lot of these tiny crustaceans are hidden away under rocks and amongst the decaying seaweed.
Yeah, that's right. We can even find sandhoppers here in the upper shore. This pile of dead seaweed here is perfect. And if we just lift it up, we'll see them just hiding underneath.
Oh, cool. You can see them hopping around there. But I think I'm going to go to the middle shore to find some more fierce crustaceans.
Me too!
What you will need to have handy while watching is a pen or pencil and your workbook. Don't forget to check out the Explorer's safety and conservation code. These will help you stay safe on the seashore. Perfect. The sandhopper, or drankid trawl, will be found all over the shore, from the upper all the way down to the lower, but the best places to look are under rocks like these or under dead or decaying seaweed. Now they'll be found in their thousands across the beach. Now you can imagine them like a little army of cleaners just making their way, eating all the dead and decaying pieces of seaweed that you'll find here. Now sandhoppers are pretty easy to recognize in that their reaction to you actually finding them is one of a mad dash or a hop or a leap, as you might see them do. Now you won't see them for long because once you move that piece of seaweed or that rock, they will disappear pretty quickly as they try and get away and find some more cover. Now a really interesting thing about sandhoppers is they have this kind of internal tidal clock that's linked to the tide, where they will actually change their behavior based on whether the tide is in or out. And they don't actually need to be on the shore for that to work. So we know that it's an internal activity that they do. Now, If you do manage to get a close look at them, the things to look out for are they've got these two little small black eyes, they've got these very unusual antennae where one is often longer than the other. The colour can vary, but you're kind of talking maybe a grey, brown, sometimes yellowish type colour as well. They have a curled tail that's divided into segments, and those segments are actually what lets the tail flick and give them their jump that allows them to escape any danger that they sense. Now, I'm going to just place their rock just back gently over them here, just so that I can let them go back to foraging, and I'm going to head down to the lower shore and have a look at what's there. Hi Noirin.
Hiya, Padraic.
What have you found?
I've been down here on the middle shore looking for crustaceans, and I'm after finding barnacles, or Thoravon corriga cutchin. Now, barnacles are, I think they're incredible, because when you think about the sandhopper, the way it was hopping all over the place on you earlier, barnacles are like the opposite, but they're still part of that crustacean family. This rock is covered in these animals. So this acorn, common acorn barnacle, is living here stuck onto the rock for its entire life. Its body is made up of 6 plates which form a little cone-shaped house. And then it has 2 separate plates up at the top. We like to describe those as sliding doors. Now, the little animal that's inside this shell or case is actually stuck onto the rock with his head. And when the tide comes in, he slides back, or she slides back those sliding doors and sticks its feet out to feed and catch all the food. When the tide then goes out again and it's under predation, might get eaten by another animal, it shuts up those doors and it's safe, nice inside in its shell. It's a wonderful adaptation to have. This one here is really interesting because if we have a look at it, this one's empty. Now, there could be a number of reasons for that, but obviously barnacles are food for other animals. So when you find empty ones like this, it might be the animals died of natural causes, or it could be that it's been eaten by something like a dog whelk, which is a predatory sea snail here on the shore. It might have drilled into this poor guy's shell and sucked him up like a little barnacle soup. Yummy.
Found our way down here to the lower shore, and we're going to find one of the most exciting crustaceans, the common shore crab, or Perthon glas as Gaeilge. What we're going to have to do is we're going to have to hunker down to spot them, as they look very similar to all these seaweeds. They come in all sorts of colours, ranging from your oranges, reds, browns, all the way to black, so they camouflage really well. Here I found one, just beside this rock under the seaweed. I'm going to pick it up here. You have to be very careful. It has 2 quite large pincers at the front of its body, so if you hold it near the back, you should be safe from any pinches. So this is our common green crab. You can tell it is a common green crab because it has its 5 little serrated edges here along the front of the carapace, and it has 3 little bumps in between its eyes, which are on stalks, which are really handy for crabs. They can pull it into their shell for protection. We also have little mouth parts. You can see it's blowing bubbles there from its mouth parts. Common crabs can't actually breathe out of water, but they can hold their breath for a really long time. So they have to be able to hold their breath all the way until the tide comes in again. So the crab is covered by this very hard shell here, protecting its body. It's called its exoskeleton. So the skeleton is on the outside, and this underside here is called its thorax. Now, the really cool thing about the crab is this shell doesn't actually grow with it. So what it has to do to grow is it has to molt its shell. So it has to push itself completely out of its body. We're left behind with this hard exoskeleton. It takes on a lot of water and gets much bigger, and then after a few days it starts to harden up again. But for a few days they are very soft and they're very vulnerable to predators, so they have to hide really well in the rocks and the seaweeds so they don't get eaten by things like birds or other fish. Crabs are decapods. This means they have 10 limbs. The front limbs are pincers, and they have 8 walking legs. They don't walk forwards and backwards like us, but they scuttle sideways. another crab. We have a little boy here. We can tell the difference between the girls and the boys. The boys have a V on their abdomen and the girl has this lovely U shape on her abdomen. Now remember, when you are hunting for crabs, they are predators, but they're also prey. So remember to pop them back underneath the seaweed or rocks where you found them. They're omnivores, so they eat the dead plant and animal material underneath the seaweed, so they can go back and have a little bit of grub when you put them under the seaweed.
Hi, I'm here on the middle shore and I found one of my favourite crabs. So this is a common hermit crab, also known as Fueca glummic. Now, hermit crabs are pretty special for a number of reasons, but one of the things that is really cool about them is, unlike normal shore crabs or edible crabs, they don't cover their entire body with a hard exoskeleton or shell. Instead, just the front part of their body and their claws has that really hard armour suit that Padraic was telling you about earlier on them. The back of their body, we call it their abdominum or carapace, that's left vulnerable and soft. So to protect themselves and stop them getting eaten by predators, they wear the empty shell of another animal, like one of the sea snails on the beach. This one is actually wearing a shell from an edible periwinkle. Now, these empty shells that they move into, they can get pretty hard to find. Hermit crabs can grow to between 3 and 10 centimetres in size, and as they grow bigger and they're looking for bigger empty shells, property can be pretty difficult and it can be hard to locate the right shell on the shore. This can end up in hermit crabs actually fighting each other to the death for the right sort of property to move into. Now, the hint for looking for hermit crabs on the shore is, if you're looking in pools of water and you spot a shell that's moving pretty fast across the sand, kind of in a scurrying motion, the chances are that's a hermit crab and not a sea snail. The final last cool adaptation from hermit crabs that I'm going to tell you about today is the fact that their pincers on the front, which is like their large pair of legs at the front of their body, aren't actually the same size. In hermit crabs, one of their pincers is larger because what they do is they use that to seal themselves into their shell when they've pulled themselves back in for protection. So they'll use that pincer almost like closing their front door. Now, I don't know what the property market is like here in Galway, but I'm going to leave this little hermit crab to explore.
So I found my way down to the lower part of the shore. I found a lovely large prawn, also known in Irish as clichán cutchin. The prawn is unusual because it is transparent, but also has fluorescent leg joints, which you can see if the light hits them just right. They will often have red and black lines along its body, and the body itself is quite narrow. If we look close to the head, you'll notice a small spike. This is known as the rostrum. Near that spike, you will see very long antennae. They also have really small pincers, not like a crab, but if you look closely, you will notice them there just at the front of the body. The tail is curved in, and this is what it uses to flick and shoot and dash away.
We have had such a great day here on the beach looking for all sorts of crustaceans. But did you know that crabs can not only be found in the ocean, they can be found in fresh water and also living on land too. So there are over 4,500 different species of crab living all over the world.
Actually, the smallest crab in the world is the pea crab, which is only a few millimeters wide. In contrast, the Japanese spider crab is the largest, with a 4-meter leg span. That's like you and me standing head to shoulders.
So now we're going to look back on what we learned.
Now it's time to get creative. While you're on the seashore, why not take that time to do a bit of a scavenger hunt, using the flotsam and jetsam that'll wash up here, such as feathers and driftwood and old seaweed.
Then why not use the things that you have found to make a really big sandcastle, or maybe a giant crustacean monster in the sand? How would you measure it?
Anna, that's a great question. How would we measure them? Maybe I could use my body and we could measure them against my leg, or maybe I could pace it out with my feet. Another activity you might like to do after learning about crustaceans on the shore is maybe write a song. Remember, when you're creating your song and you're writing your verses, think about the different things we've learned today. You might want to talk about where we've been on the shore, some of the special features that the animal had, and maybe what they eat and who eats them.
From all of us here at the Explorers team, remember, keep exploring!